You have to really almost meditate on it and say, what can go wrong and how do I make sure I minimize the chances things can go bad? So if you approach wealth in a way with the mindset of most of the rappers, you're not going to have wealth for very long. And that's just a fact. All right, so let me jump in here. I'm going to give you some steps and information on what a Black Wall Street would look like as you build that. First thing you have to have is capital access. So there's a theory, the Solo model of endogenous growth theory, that basically says that sustained development requires capital accumulation. So that means you have to have savings, investment, and credit structures that recycle back into the community. So in order for Black economic systems to be built, you have to have access to capital, which we don't tend to have. But also you have to have in the community, you have to have savers and investors and not just borrowers and spenders. So you can have borrowers and spenders, but you have to have savers and investors. That's why saving culture, which is conservative again, investing culture is really important. So the fact that we've talked 10,000 times, and in this room there are thousands of investors. That right there does mean that when we decide to launch something or do something together, which I'm still thinking about that, we'll be able to do some pretty powerful stuff because we all understand the value and the benefit of investing. You'd be amazed how many people think investing is just something that rich people do, something that only white people do, something they can't afford to do, something that they'll get around to later, something they're just not interested in because it requires a certain level of consciousness, right? An investor has to have a, um, a perspective that lends itself to delayed gratification. Delayed gratification is another form of financial consciousness. It means I'm not just thinking about how I feel right now, I'm elevating my mind to think about how I'm going to feel 5 years from now. Do you understand? That's consciousness. I have to take myself out of my body and go 5 years in the future and think about the benefits I'll have 5 years from now, 10 years from now, in order to, to make the sacrifice I'm making right now. When they get you operating on a low frequency, a low vibrational frequency, where you're not thinking from a conscious perspective, you're thinking in a one-dimensional framework, in a short-sighted framework, you become what is called myopic. Myopic just means you're short-sighted. Animals think like that actually. If you get a dog and and let's say you go on a vacation and you're going to be gone for 7 days and you give your dog 7 days worth of food, what is that dog going to do? Is he gonna say to himself, I better eat a little bit now so I can have enough for the next 7 days, and then I'm gonna eat a little bit more tomorrow, but I'm not gonna go too far with it. What's he gonna do? No, he's not gonna do that. The dog is gonna eat, he's gonna eat 7 days worth of food. He's gonna eat real good for about 24 hours, and then he's gonna run out of food, and by the time you get home, that dog might not be alive no more because he's gonna be starving, right? So really, if you think about this, the goal of capitalism, the sinister goal of Americanized capitalism is to get you thinking like a damn dog. Is to put you under so much pressure and low vibrational thinking that you're not even planning for the next 6 months. You're not even thinking about next year. Maybe it's because you're in survival mode and all you can think about is how am I going to get by this week? Or maybe you in party mode where you live in YOLO. Like I'm just gonna do what I'm gonna do and I'm gonna live my life. How many times have you seen that? Somebody who's living in the moment all the time and having their best life all the time, and then they suffer for the next 40 years because they were living their best life every single day in college. I think that that's the goal. I think that if you have short-sighted people with low consciousness, they're going to be the ones that you can turn into slaves. A lack of consciousness leads right into slavery because you're not thinking about how the next step impacts the step after that. You're not playing chess, you're playing checkers.